1 year later, the sound of bare feet hitting mats filled the new training space at PowerFit Martial Arts Academy. What had once been a storage area was now a state-of-the-art dojo with proper matting, wall mirrors, and even a small viewing area for parents and guests. The PowerFit logo had been updated to include a stylized grappling silhouette, and framed photos of Lisa's championship victories lined one wall alongside Kevin's coaching certifications. "Keep your base solid," Kevin called out to the evening adult class as 20 students paired off to practice the technique they'd just learned. "Remember what Lisa showed you about weight distribution?" At the mention of her name, several students glanced toward the office at the far end of the dojo, where Lisa could be seen through the glass window, deep in conversation with a visitor. Even after a year, there was still a certain reverence when students spoke about their female instructor, the 3-time national champion who somehow ended up co-directing their neighborhood gym's martial arts program. What had begun as a tentative partnership had blossomed into something neither Lisa nor Kevin could have predicted. Their 6-month trial program had quickly expanded to a full curriculum with classes 6 days a week, age groups ranging from children to seniors, and a special competition team that was already making waves at regional tournaments. As Kevin wrapped up the evening class, Lisa emerged from the office with her visitor, a tall woman in business casual attire carrying a notebook. "Everyone, before you go," Lisa called out, "I'd like to introduce Diane from the City Sports Commission. She's here to discuss our community outreach proposal." The students bowed respectfully before dispersing to the changing rooms. Kevin joined Lisa and their visitor. "Great class," Diane commented. "I'm impressed by the diversity, all ages, backgrounds, body types." "That's intentional," Kevin explained. "Our philosophy is that martial arts should be accessible to everyone, not just natural athletes or those who fit a certain mold." Lisa nodded. "We've worked hard to create an environment where anyone can train at their own pace and with their own goals." "Well, the commission is very interested in your proposal," Diane said. "A free self-defense program for at-risk youth and women's shelters could make a real difference in those communities." "That's our hope," Lisa replied. "Martial arts gave me confidence and purpose when I needed it most. Everyone deserves that opportunity, especially those facing challenges." After Diane left with a promise of funding news within the week, Kevin and Lisa began their nightly cleanup routine. They moved around each other with the easy familiarity of partners who had found their rhythm, straightening equipment and wiping down mats while discussing the day's classes. "The kids' competition team is looking strong for next month's tournament," Kevin remarked, rolling up a stray belt someone had left behind. "Especially Tina. Her armbar technique is getting scary good." Lisa smiled at the mention of their star 12-year-old student. "She reminds me of myself at that age. All determination." "Speaking of competition," Kevin said carefully, "have you made a decision about nationals? Registration deadline is Friday." Lisa paused in her task, a familiar tension crossing her face. Her return to competition had been a complex journey over the past year. After their program launched, she'd focused entirely on teaching for the first 6 months. Then, with Kevin's encouragement, she'd entered a regional tournament, winning easily and reigniting her competitive drive. "I'm still thinking about it," she admitted. "Part of me wants to defend my title. Another part wonders if it's time to pass the torch and focus on coaching our team." Kevin nodded understanding. "No rush. Whatever you decide, I've got your back." That simple statement, "I've got your back," still surprised Lisa sometimes. A year ago, they'd been adversaries. Kevin's ego bruised by her refusal to accept his unsolicited advice. Now he was her most steadfast supporter, whether she was on the mat competing or in the dojo teaching. After finishing their cleanup, they moved to the small office they shared to handle the day's administrative tasks. Photos on the wall chronicled the growth of their program, the ribbon cutting when the dojo officially opened, their first children's class, the competition team's first tournament, and several shots of Lisa and Kevin teaching together. "Oh, I almost forgot," Kevin said, pulling an envelope from his desk drawer. "This came for you today." Lisa opened it to find an official invitation from the National Martial Arts Association, requesting her participation as a featured instructor at their annual convention. "This is a big deal," Kevin said. "They only invite the best of the best to teach at the convention." Lisa read through the details. "They want me to lead a workshop on competition techniques for smaller practitioners." She looked up with a smile. And they've specifically requested that my teaching partner join me. Kevin's eyebrows shot up. Me? They want me too? Apparently our teaching duo has developed quite a reputation, Lisa said, handing him the letter. They mentioned our innovative approach to technical instruction and practical application. Kevin read the invitation with growing amazement. This is incredible. National exposure for our teaching method. We've come a long way from that morning when you tried to correct my sloppy transitions, Lisa teased. Kevin groaned, covering his face dramatically. Will I ever live that down? Never, Lisa laughed. It's too good a story. As they locked up for the night, they passed by the gym's main area where it had all begun. PowerFit had thrived alongside their martial arts program, the two businesses complementing each other perfectly. Many gym members had joined the martial arts classes, while martial arts students often expanded into general fitness training. Tom, now the gym's manager, waved as they passed the front desk. Hey, did you see the news? That reality show about martial arts competitions wants to film here next month. David's over the moon about it. As long as they don't interfere with our regular classes, Lisa said. You two are the reason they want to film here, Tom pointed out. A national champion and her former critic turned business partner. That's reality TV gold. Kevin laughed as they pushed through the doors into the cool evening air. Should we be worried they'll dramatize our origin story? Let them try, Lisa said. The truth is dramatic enough. They walked toward the parking lot, discussing plans for the next day's classes. Their cars were parked side by side, Lisa's practical sedan and Kevin's SUV, both sporting PowerFit Martial Arts Academy magnets on their doors. You know what I was thinking about today? Kevin said as they reached their vehicles. What's that? That morning, a year ago, when I tried to show off by challenging you in front of everyone. He shook his head at the memory. I was such an idiot. You were protecting your territory, Lisa said diplomatically. Most people would have done the same. Maybe. But not everyone would have given me a second chance afterward. Kevin leaned against his car. When you agreed to let me observe your training, I was sure you'd just be waiting for a chance to humiliate me like I tried to do to you. That's not really my style, Lisa said. I know that now. But I didn't then. Kevin's expression grew serious. You could have just found another gym. Instead, you created an opportunity for both of us to grow. You saw potential where I only saw competition. Lisa considered his words. I think we both needed what the other had to offer. I needed your teaching experience, you needed my technical expertise. Sometimes the right partnerships find us when we're not looking for them. True, though, I could have found a less embarrassing way to meet my future business partner than trying to make her look bad in front of the whole gym. Lisa laughed, but then we wouldn't have such a great story to tell. As they said their goodbyes and got into their respective cars, Lisa reflected on the unexpected journey of the past year. She'd walked into PowerFit that first morning seeking anonymity and a quiet place to train. Instead, she'd found a new purpose, a successful business, and a partnership that brought out the best in both of them. The national championship competition was still on her mind as she drove home. Part of her longed for the familiar challenge and validation that competing had always provided. But another part, a growing part, felt fulfilled by the work she was doing at the academy. Seeing their students progress, watching Kevin develop as an instructor under her influence, building a program they were both proud of. These achievements satisfied something deeper than medals ever had. By the time she reached her apartment, Lisa had made her decision. She would compete one more time, not to prove herself, but to show their students what was possible when you combined technical excellence with dedicated training. And win or lose, she would return to what had become her true calling, building their academy and teaching others to find their strength, just as she had. The next morning, Lisa arrived at PowerFit earlier than usual. She wasn't surprised to find Kevin already there, preparing for the day's classes. Their shared commitment to the program was one of the foundations of their successful partnership. Morning, he greeted her. You're early. I made a decision, Lisa said. I'm going to register for nationals. Kevin's face lit up. That's great. The whole academy will be behind you. With one condition, Lisa added. I want our competition team there too. Not just to watch, but to compete in their divisions. We'll make it a team event. I love it, Kevy. The weekend workshop was scheduled for 3 weeks later. giving Lisa and Kevin time to plan their curriculum while David handled the marketing. Posters appeared around the gym featuring both their names and a simple tagline: Championship Techniques and Teaching Methodology. Word spread quickly beyond PowerFit's regular members, bringing registration requests from other gyms across the city. "We're at capacity," David announced one morning, 2 weeks before the event. 48 participants, waitlist already at 12 people. He couldn't hide his excitement. "We could have filled a space twice this size." Kevin looked both thrilled and nervous. "That's a lot of eyes watching us." "Watching Lisa, you mean?" David corrected with a grin. "No offense, but she's the draw here." Lisa, who had been quietly stretching nearby, shook her head. "It's the combination that's interesting to people. Championship techniques with practical teaching methods. We're partners in this, right?" Kevin shot her a grateful look. Their relationship had evolved considerably over the past weeks. What had begun as observation had developed into a genuine collaboration, each recognizing the other's strengths. Kevin's ability to break down complex movements for beginners complemented Lisa's advanced technical knowledge perfectly. Every morning, they continued their training sessions, now with a small but dedicated audience of gym members who arrived early just to watch and learn. Mike had become something of an assistant, helping demonstrate techniques and offering feedback from a student's perspective. As the workshop approached, Lisa found herself growing increasingly comfortable with the idea of teaching. There was something rewarding about sharing knowledge she'd accumulated over years of competition, seeing the moment of understanding on someone's face when a technique finally clicked. "You're a natural teacher," Kevin told her one morning after they'd finished planning the workshop outline. "You know that, right?" Lisa smiled. "I'm still figuring it out, but I like it more than I expected to." "It shows." Kevin closed his notebook. "By the way, I noticed you haven't been doing your competition prep routines lately. Everything okay?" The question caught her off guard. She hadn't realized he'd been paying such close attention. "Just shifting focus for now," she said. With the workshop coming up, it made sense to concentrate on teaching. Kevin studied her for a moment. "Lisa, I don't want this workshop to interfere with your training goals. If you need more time for your own prep, we can adjust." His concern was genuine, which made Lisa's next words harder to say. "Actually, I've been thinking about taking a longer break from competition. Maybe focusing on teaching for a while." "Really?" Kevin looked surprised. "But you're at the top of your game. Your last championship was what, 6 months ago?" 8, Lisa corrected. "Before the surgery. Still, that's recent. Most fighters would be pushing hard to get back in the circuit." Lisa was quiet for a moment. "The truth is, I've been competing since I was 16. 17 years of training 6 days a week, traveling constantly. The pressure of always having to prove myself. It takes a toll." Kevin nodded slowly. "I can imagine. These past few weeks, working with you and the others here, it's reminded me why I fell in love with Jiu-Jitsu in the first place. The pure art of it, sharing knowledge, seeing others improve." She smiled slightly. "It feels good in a different way." "Well, for what it's worth, I think you'd be an amazing full-time coach," Kevin said. "But I also think you've got more championships in you if that's what you want." "Maybe both," Lisa replied. "I'm still figuring it out." The morning of the workshop arrived with a buzz of excitement at PowerFit. David had transformed the gym for the occasion, moving equipment to create a large open space with the mat area as the centerpiece. Chairs lined the walls for participants who weren't actively practicing techniques, and a small refreshment table was set up in the corner. Lisa arrived an hour early to find Kevin already there, arranging handouts on a table near the entrance. "Nervous?" she asked, setting down her bag. "Terrified," he admitted with a laugh. "You?" "A little," Lisa confessed. "Different kind of pressure than competition, but still pressure." Kevin nodded, understanding. "Competition, you only have to worry about yourself. Teaching, you're responsible for everyone else's experience." Exactly. They spent the next hour going through their plan one last time. They'd decided to structure the workshop in alternating segments. Lisa would demonstrate an advanced technique. Then Kevin would break down the teaching methodology behind it, focusing on how to adapt it for different skill levels. By 9 o'clock, the gym was packed. Participants in training gear filled every available space, an equal mix of experienced practitioners and teaching-focused coaches. Lisa recognized several faces from regional competitions, including a couple of black belts she'd faced in tournaments. David called for everyone's attention and made brief introductions before turning the floor over to Lisa and Kevin. As they stepped onto the mat together, Lisa felt a momentary surge of nerves, then a calm certainty. This was where she belonged. "Welcome, everyone," she began. "Today is about bridging the gap between high-level competitive techniques and practical everyday teaching. It's not just about what to teach, but how to teach it effectively." Kevin picked up seamlessly. "We'll be focusing on techniques that can be adapted across skill levels, with special attention to how body type and physical attributes affect execution." They moved into their first demonstration, a guard passing sequence that Lisa had used successfully in competition. As she flowed through the movements with Kevin as her partner, she felt the familiar joy of perfect execution, the same satisfaction she experienced in training, but now shared with a room full of eager learners. When they transitioned to the teaching segment, Kevin shined. His ability to identify common sticking points and offer modifications was impressive even to Lisa. They worked together fluidly, finishing each other's explanations and demonstrating variations as questions arose from the group. During the practice portion, they moved through the room offering individual guidance. Lisa noticed how differently they approached coaching. She focused primarily on technical precision, while Kevin had an intuitive sense for when a student needed encouragement versus correction. Together they covered all bases. "You guys are like yin and yang," Mike commented during a water break. He'd volunteered to help demonstrate techniques for the workshop. Totally different styles, but they fit together perfectly. By lunchtime, the energy in the room was buzzing. Participants clustered in small groups, practicing techniques and discussing applications. Lisa overheard several conversations comparing her teaching style favorably to other championship-level fighters who occasionally offered seminars. "Most champions can do the techniques perfectly, but can't explain why they work," one coach was saying. "She breaks it down in a way that actually makes sense for teaching." "And pairing with Kevin is genius," his companion added. "He's got the everyday coaching perspective that makes it practical." Lisa caught Kevin's eye across the room and saw that he'd heard the comments too. He gave her a small smile and a thumbs up. The afternoon session built on the morning's fundamentals, moving into more complex sequences and problem-solving scenarios. As they demonstrated a particularly intricate submission chain, Lisa realized she was enjoying herself more than she had in years. The pressure to win was absent, replaced by the satisfaction of seeing others grasp and apply her knowledge. By 4 o'clock, when they wrapped up the final Q&A session, Lisa's voice was hoarse from hours of instruction, but her energy remained high. The participants gave them a standing ovation, many lining up afterward to ask about future workshops. As the last of the attendees filtered out, David approached them with a broad smile. "That," he said emphatically, "was phenomenal. The feedback is off the charts. People are already asking when the next one will be." Kevin looked at Lisa. "What do you think? Should we do another?" Before she could answer, David jumped in. "Actually, I have a proposition for both of you." He glanced around to make sure they were alone, then continued. "I've been thinking about expanding PowerFit's offerings, adding a dedicated martial arts program with proper classes, not just the casual sessions we have now." Lisa and Kevin exchanged curious looks. "I'd like you both to be part of it," David continued. "Co-directors of the program. Kevin handling the regular classes and beginner curriculum, Lisa leading the advanced training and competitor development." The offer caught Lisa by surprise. She'd been considering teaching more seriously, but a full program directorship was beyond what she'd imagined. "It would be part-time to start," David added, seeing their hesitation. 3 days a week each with the potential to grow if it takes off, which after today I have no doubt it will." "I don't know what to say," Lisa admitted. "It's a big step from one workshop to running a program." "You wouldn't be doing it alone," David pointed out. "That's the beauty of the partnership. You complement each other perfectly." Kevin looked thoughtful. "It would mean restructuring my current training groups." "With a significant pay increase," David added, "and better facilities. I'm prepared to invest in converting the storage space into a proper dojo if you both sign on." "Could I still compete?" Lisa asked. "Absolutely," David assured her. "In fact, having an active champion leading the Prague The next morning, Lisa hesitated outside the doors of PowerFit. For a moment, she considered turning around and heading home. Her morning routine had always been sacred, a time for focused training without distractions. After yesterday's revelation, she knew that peaceful anonymity was gone. Taking a deep breath, she pushed through the doors. The gym was quieter than she expected, with only a handful of the usual early morning regulars present. Tom waved from behind the front desk. "Morning, champ," he said with a friendly smile. "Don't worry, we haven't put up any posters of you yet." Lisa couldn't help but laugh. That's a relief. Though David did update our website to mention we have a national champion training here, Tom added with a wink. "Hope that's okay," Lisa shrugged. It was inevitable, she supposed. As long as there are no banners hanging from the ceiling with my face on them. "No promises for next week," Tom joked. "Seriously though, the mat area is all yours. I made sure of it." "Thanks, Tom." As Lisa began her warm-up, she noticed the other gym-goers giving her respectful space while stealing occasional glances. Word had clearly spread. She tried to focus on her routine but found herself self-conscious in a way she hadn't been before. When she moved to the mat area, she felt the weight of expectations that hadn't been there yesterday. Halfway through her training session, the gym door opened and Kevin walked in. He stopped when he spotted her, his body language stiff and uncertain. For a moment, they locked eyes across the gym. Then, to Lisa's surprise, he walked directly toward her. She continued her movement sequence, watching his approach from the corner of her eye. When he reached the edge of the mat, he cleared his throat awkwardly. "Good morning," he said, his usual confidence notably absent. "Morning," Lisa replied, completing her sequence before straightening up to face him. Kevin seemed to struggle with his words, shifting his weight from one foot to the other. I wanted to apologize for yesterday. I was out of line." The apology surprised her. She'd expected him to avoid her entirely, or perhaps to come up with excuses for his behavior. A direct apology was unexpected. "Thank you," she said simply. "Apology accepted." He nodded, then hesitated before continuing. "I made assumptions based on nothing really. It was unprofessional and disrespectful." Lisa studied him for a moment. His discomfort seemed genuine. The arrogance from yesterday replaced by what appeared to be honest regret. "It happens," she said. "I'm used to it. That doesn't make it right." Kevin glanced around the gym before looking back at her. For what it's worth, that counter to Mike's takedown was perfect. "Your hip movement and timing." He shook his head in admiration. "I've been teaching that defense for years and I've never seen it executed so cleanly." A compliment was the last thing Lisa had expected. "Thanks, Mike has good form, by the way." His initial approach was solid. Kevin smiled slightly. "He's one of my best students. Been training with me for 3 years." He paused. "He hasn't stopped talking about your technique since yesterday. Asked if we could incorporate more of that style into our training." Lisa couldn't help but smile at that. He seems like a serious student. Good attitude, too. An awkward silence fell between them. Kevin broke it by clearing his throat again. "Listen, I know you probably want nothing to do with me or my classes after yesterday, but would you consider letting me observe your training sometime? Just to learn. No interference, I promise." The request was so unexpected that Lisa didn't immediately know how to respond. She'd encountered plenty of coaches with egos too big to admit when they were wrong or had something to learn. Kevin's humility in this moment seemed genuine. "I usually train alone," she said carefully. "Of course, I understand," he said quickly. "It was just a thought. I'll leave you to your routine." As he turned to walk away, Lisa made a split-second decision. "Kevin," she called after him. He turned back, eyebrows raised in question. "I train here every morning at 6. If you want to observe, that's fine. But just observe, okay?" His face brightened. "Absolutely. Thank you." As Kevin walked away, Lisa returned to her training with mixed feelings. Part of her wondered if she was making a mistake. But another part, the part that had always believed in the power of Jiu-Jitsu to build bridges and change perspectives, felt she'd made the right choice. Over the next week, a new routine developed. Lisa would arrive at 6 and Kevin would quietly take a spot at the edge of the mat. True to his word, he never interrupted or offered unsolicited advice. He simply watched, occasionally taking notes in a small notebook. On the 4th day, Lisa finished a particularly challenging sequence and noticed Kevin shaking his head in amazement. "Something wrong?" she asked. Not wrong, he replied. Just the way you transition from guard to mount. It's so efficient. You save at least 2 movements compared to how I teach it. Lisa wiped sweat from her forehead with a towel. It's a variation my coach developed. Works better for smaller frames like mine. It's brilliant, Kevin admitted. Would completely change how some of my smaller students approach that position. Lisa took a drink from her water bottle, considering him for a moment. Show me how you teach it. Kevin looked surprised but quickly moved onto the mat and demonstrated the conventional transition. His technique was textbook, exactly what you'd see in most training manuals. That's solid, Lisa acknowledged. But watch the difference. She demonstrated her version, moving in slow motion to highlight the key differences. See how I use leverage instead of strength here? And this grip change saves energy while maintaining control. Kevin's eyes lit up with understanding. The hip angle is completely different, may I? He asked, gesturing to try it himself. Lisa nodded and Kevin attempted the modified version, moving carefully through each step. Keep your elbow tighter to your body on the second movement, Lisa suggested. It creates better pressure. Kevin adjusted and completed the transition. That feels so much more efficient. It is, especially for anyone giving up size or strength to their opponent. For the next 20 minutes, they worked through the sequence together, Lisa making small corrections to Kevin's form. When they finished, both were breathing harder. But there was a new energy between them, the mutual respect of practitioners sharing knowledge. Thank you for showing me that, Kevin said sincerely. You're welcome, Lisa replied. She hesitated, then added, your base fundamentals are actually very good. Your students have a solid foundation. Kevin's expression showed that the compliment meant something coming from her. Thanks, that means a lot. The following morning, Kevin arrived with a notebook full of questions. I hope you don't mind, he said almost shyly. I was reviewing some of my teaching methods after yesterday and realized I could improve several areas. Would you mind looking at a few of these transitions? Something had shifted. The arrogant coach who had tried to embarrass her was gone, replaced by a fellow practitioner eager to learn and improve. Lisa found herself impressed by his willingness to put his ego aside. That session turned into an impromptu workshop, with Lisa demonstrating alternative approaches to standard techniques. Kevin proved to be a quick study, adapting his movements based on her feedback and asking thoughtful questions about the principles behind each modification. By the end of the week, their morning sessions had evolved into a collaborative exchange. Kevin still primarily observed, but occasionally Lisa would invite him to work through a specific sequence or problem. She was surprised to discover he had valuable insights as well, particularly regarding teaching methods for beginners, something she had limited experience with. Having always trained at elite levels, word spread quickly throughout the gym about their morning sessions. Other members began arriving earlier, quietly taking spots along the wall to watch. Mike was among the most dedicated observers, never missing a morning, despite having to arrive an hour before his usual time. After one particularly productive session focused on escape techniques, Mike approached them both. That was amazing, he said. The way you explained the weight distribution on the hip escape, Lisa, it finally clicked for me. And coach, your breakdown of the gripping sequence was super helpful. Kevin glanced at Lisa. We make a decent teaching team, it seems. Apparently so, she agreed. Later that morning, David, the gym owner, called Lisa into his office. I've been watching what's happening with you and Kevin, he said. The energy in the gym has completely transformed. Members are talking about it coming in early, asking when you'll be teaching more formally. Lisa shifted uncomfortably. They're not really lessons. We're just working through some techniques. Call it what you want, David smiled. But I've never seen Kevin so engaged or humble, and I've never seen our members so excited about technical training. He leaned forward. I'd like to propose something official. A weekend workshop series, you and Kevin co-teaching. Advanced techniques from you, teaching methodology from him. We'd promote it properly, pay you both well. Lisa hesitated. Teaching had never been part of her plan. She'd always been focused on competition, on pushing her own limits rather than helping others find theirs. I don't know. David, I'm still focused on getting back to competition form. Just think about it, he urged. One weekend to start, see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, no harm done. When Lisa left the office, she found Kevin waiting. Lisa stood perfectly still, feeling the weight of 24 curious stares fixed on her. The gym had fallen silent, the usual background music suddenly seeming too loud in the awkward pause. Coach Kevin's challenge hung in the air between them, his smug expression making it clear he expected her to either back down or embarrass herself. For a brief moment, she considered simply gathering her things and leaving. She hadn't come here looking for conflict or attention. But something in Kevin's arrogant stance, the way he deliberately called her out to prove a point, sparked a quiet resolve within her. "I'm in the middle of my own routine," she said evenly, her voice carrying across the now silent gym. "But thank you for the invitation." Kevin's smile widened as he turned to his group. "See what I mean? Some people think watching a few YouTube videos qualifies as training." He looked back at Lisa. "This is exactly the difference between serious athletes and hobbyists." A few uncomfortable laughs rippled through his group, but most of the gym-goers looked embarrassed by the confrontation. Tom, the front desk attendant, had stepped away from his post and was moving toward them with a concerned expression. "Come on," Kevin continued, his voice taking on a cajoling tone. "Just one quick demonstration. I promise we'll go easy on you." He gestured to a young man standing beside him, muscular, probably in his mid-20s, with the confident posture of someone used to winning. "Mike here can show you some basic techniques." Totally safe, Lisa took a deep breath. She'd spent years learning to control her competitive instincts, to channel her abilities only when necessary, but sometimes a lesson needed to be taught. "All right," she said quietly. "One quick demonstration." Kevin looked momentarily surprised, clearly having expected more resistance. He recovered quickly, clapping his hands together. "Great, everyone, gather around the main mat. We're going to show the difference between untrained movements and proper technique." The gym members formed a loose circle around the large central mat as Kevin directed Mike to stand in the center. Lisa set her water bottle down and walked over calmly, very aware of the spectacle being created. This wasn't how she'd planned to start her day. "So what exactly are we demonstrating?" she asked. Kevin's smile had an edge to it now. "Simple grappling fundamentals. Mike's going to show how proper form can easily overcome even the most enthusiastic amateur." Mike nodded at her with what seemed like a slightly apologetic smile. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you." Lisa simply nodded back, keeping her face neutral. Kevin positioned himself at the edge of the mat like a referee. "All right, we'll start with a basic takedown defense. Mike will attempt a standard single-leg takedown and..." He looked at Lisa with raised eyebrows, realizing he'd never asked her name. "Lisa," she supplied. "Lisa will try to defend against it. This will show why proper technique beats raw effort every time." She nodded again, slipping off her training shoes and stepping onto the mat in her socks. Mike took position opposite her, bouncing lightly on the balls of his feet. "Ready?" Kevin asked, his tone making it clear who he expected to win this exchange. "Ready," Mike confirmed. Lisa simply nodded, dropping into a relaxed stance that any trained eye would recognize as far from amateur. Her weight perfectly balanced, hands loose and ready. "Begin," Kevin called out. Mike moved forward with confidence, shooting in for the single-leg takedown that Kevin had announced. His form was decent, clearly he had some training. In another situation against an untrained opponent, it might have worked perfectly, but Lisa wasn't untrained. As Mike reached for her leg, Lisa executed a perfectly timed sprawl, her hips dropping just enough to create pressure while maintaining her balance. In one fluid motion, she redirected his momentum, slipped to the side, and established wrist control. Before anyone could process what was happening, she had transitioned to his back, her movement so smooth and efficient that it seemed almost choreographed. Mike found himself controlled in a textbook rear position. Not quite a submission, but clearly dominated. The entire sequence had taken less than 3 seconds. The gym fell completely silent. Lisa immediately released her hold and stepped back, offering a hand to help Mike up. He took it with a bewildered expression, clearly trying to process what had just happened. "What the hell was that?" Kevin broke the silence, his confident demeanor cracked for the first time. "That's not, you can't just..." He stopped, visibly regrouping. That was a fluke. Mike wasn't going full intensity. Mike, to his credit, shook his head. "No, that was solid technique. Really solid." He looked at Lisa with new respect. "Where did you train?" Before Lisa could answer, one of the gym members at the edge of the circle spoke up. "Wait a minute, I know who she is." The woman pulled out her phone, quickly searching something. I thought she looked familiar. Is your last name Torres? Lisa sighed inwardly. So much for anonymity. Yes, she admitted. The woman turned her phone around, showing a sports website profile with Lisa's competition photo. She's Lisa Torres, 3-time national Jiu-Jitsu champion. I watched her win gold at the Pan American Games 2 years ago. A murmur ran through the crowd as people leaned in to look at the phone. Kevin's face went through a remarkable series of expressions. Disbelief, followed by embarrassment, and finally settling on something like indignation. Why didn't you say something? He demanded. Lisa shrugged. You never asked. You just assumed. Tom, who had been watching from the side, stepped forward with a broad smile. Well, this is quite the honor. We've never had a champion of your caliber at PowerFit before, Kevin interrupted. I think we should continue with our scheduled training. Everyone back to your stations. His voice carried none of the authority it had held minutes earlier. The crowd reluctantly began to disperse, though many kept glancing back at Lisa with newfound interest. Mike lingered for a moment. That was amazing, he said quietly. I never felt so completely controlled in a grapple before. Would it be okay if I asked you some questions about that technique sometime? Sure, Lisa said with a small smile. Happy to help. As Mike jogged off to rejoin Kevin's group, Tom approached Lisa again. So a national champion, huh? Keeping secrets from us? Lisa picked up her water bottle. Not secrets exactly. I just prefer to train without the attention. Fair enough, Tom nodded, understanding. But now that the cat's out of the bag, would you consider doing a guest session sometime? Nothing big, just some basics for our members. We'd pay you, of course. I don't know. Lisa hesitated. I'm focusing on getting back into competition shape right now. Just think about it, Tom said. No pressure. And for what it's worth, sorry about Kevin. He can be a bit territorial. Lisa glanced across the gym where Kevin was now loudly instructing his group, studiously avoiding looking in her direction. It happens, she said simply. Throughout the rest of her workout, Lisa noticed the shift in the gym's atmosphere. Members who had barely acknowledged her before now found reasons to train nearby, stealing glances or working up the courage to approach with questions. A few even asked for selfies, which she politely declined. Kevin kept his distance, his wounded pride evident in his rigid posture and the occasional glare thrown her way when he thought she wasn't looking. His training group seemed less impressed by him now, some even breaking away to watch Lisa's techniques from a respectful distance. By the time she finished her session, word had spread throughout the gym. As Lisa packed up her bag, the gym owner himself appeared, a fit man in his 50s wearing a PowerFit polo shirt with owner embroidered on the chest. Ms. Torres, he said, extending his hand. I'm David, the owner. Just heard the news from Tom. It's an absolute honor to have you training here. Thank you, Lisa said, shaking his hand. It's a nice facility. Listen, David lowered his voice. I want to personally apologize for any discomfort you experienced this morning. That's not how we treat members here at PowerFit. Lisa waved it off. It's really fine. Just a misunderstanding. Well, I'd like to make it up to you. Your membership is complimentary for the next 3 months. And I'd love to discuss the possibility of you teaching some specialized classes, if you're interested. No pressure, of course. Before Lisa could respond, they were interrupted by the arrival of a breathless young woman clutching a gym bag. I'm so sorry to interrupt, she said, but I just heard Lisa Torres is here. I'm a huge fan. Your match against Rodriguez last year was incredible. David stepped back with a smile. I'll let you two talk. Think about my offer, Ms. Torres. We'd be honored to have you share your expertise here. As he walked away, 3 more members approached, all with questions or comments about Lisa's career. The quiet anonymity she'd enjoyed was clearly gone. Across the gym, Kevin had stopped his session to watch the growing crowd around Lisa. His expression was unreadable, a mix of embarrassment and something else, perhaps the dawning realization that he'd made a serious misjudgment. Lisa answered questions politely but briefly, trying to manage the sudden attention while making it clear she wasn't looking to become the gym's celebrity. When she finally made it to the locker room, she let out a long breath, leaning against the wall. This wasn't what she'd wanted. Her plan had been simple: find a convenient gym, train quietly during her recovery, and prepare for her comeback without fanfare. Now in the space of 20 minutes, she'd become PowerFit's main attraction. The clock had just struck 6 in the morning when Lisa walked through the doors of PowerFit Gym. The familiar smell of rubber mats and cleaning spray greeted her, a scent that always felt like coming home. She'd been away from training for nearly 3 months, the longest break she'd taken in years, while recovering from a minor surgery. Now cleared to resume physical activity, she was eager to get back into her routine, though she'd decided to try a new gym closer to her apartment. At 34, Lisa didn't look like someone who could strike fear into opponents twice her size. Standing 5'5" with a lean build, she moved with a quiet confidence that most people missed. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail, and she wore plain black leggings with a gray t-shirt, nothing that screamed elite athlete. "First day?" asked the front desk attendant, a friendly-looking man with gray at his temples. "Yes," Lisa replied with a small smile. "Just moved to the neighborhood. Welcome to PowerFit. I'm Tom. If you need anything, just holler." He handed her a membership card after she completed the paperwork. "We open at 5 every day, close at 11. Gets busy after work hours, but mornings are pretty quiet except for the dedicated crowd." Lisa nodded appreciatively. "That's exactly what I'm looking for. Is it okay if I check out the mat area? I do some specialized training. Help yourself. It's all yours this early. Just so you know, Coach Kevin runs group classes in the evenings, but mornings are usually free space." Lisa thanked him and headed toward the back of the gym. The facility was impressive. Modern equipment, clean spaces, and a generous mat area perfect for her training needs. She set her bag down, did a quick survey of the few early morning gym-goers, and began her warm-up routine. For the next week, Lisa settled into a comfortable pattern. She would arrive by 6, spend 15 minutes on cardio to warm up, then move to the mat area for her specialized training. She kept to herself, focused on regaining her conditioning after the layoff. A few regulars nodded hello but respected her space, exactly how she preferred it. On her 8th day at PowerFit, Lisa was in the middle of a complex movement sequence when a voice interrupted her flow. "You're going to hurt yourself doing it that way." Lisa looked up to see a tall man, watching her with arms folded across his chest. His tight-fitting polo shirt had coach printed on it, and his expression carried the absolute certainty of someone who believed he knew best. "Excuse me?" Lisa said, standing up straight. "That technique you're doing. Your form is all wrong." He gestured broadly at her. "You'll strain your lower back if you keep that up." Lisa knew her form was perfect. She'd performed this exact sequence thousands of times under the watchful eyes of national team coaches. But years of dealing with overconfident men had taught her that arguing rarely helped. "Thanks for the tip," she said simply, and resumed her movement with a minor adjustment that wouldn't compromise the effectiveness, but might appear to address his concern. Instead of moving on, the man stepped onto the mat. "I'm Coach Kevin, haven't seen you in any of my classes yet. I'm new here. Just joined last week." He looked her up and down, making no attempt to hide his assessment. "Well, you should think about joining my evening sessions. We focus on proper technique and building real strength." He emphasized real in a way that made his meaning clear. He didn't think much of what she was doing. "Thanks, but I have a specific training program I follow." His eyebrows raised slightly. "Oh? Training for something in particular?" "Just getting back into shape after some time off," Lisa said, deliberately vague. Experience had taught her that revealing her background often created unnecessary complications. "Right," Kevin said, his tone making it clear he didn't think much of her program. He glanced at his watch. "Well, if you want some professional guidance, first session's on the house. Tuesday and Thursday evenings. I appreciate the offer." As Kevin walked away, Lisa returned to her routine, unbothered. This wasn't the first time a coach had tried to assert dominance in his space, and it certainly wouldn't be the last. The following morning, Lisa arrived to find Kevin already at the gym, something the regulars noted was unusual with raised eyebrows and knowing looks. He was loudly instructing a young man on proper lifting technique, his voice carrying deliberately across the otherwise quiet space. Lisa did her best to ignore him, but throughout her warm-up, she noticed him watching her with an evaluating stare. When she moved to the mat area, she found Kevin had shifted his training session to the weights directly beside it. "Morning," he called out, unnecessarily loud. "Changed your mind about some pointers?" "Just doing my routine, but thanks," Lisa replied. keeping her tone friendly but firm. "Suit yourself," he said with a shrug that seemed to communicate volumes to his client, who smirked in response. For the next hour, Lisa felt Kevin's periodic glances as she moved through her conditioning exercises. She kept her movements controlled but understated, not performing at competition intensity. This wasn't about showing off. It was about regaining her strength and flexibility. When she finished and began gathering her things, Kevin approached again, this time without his client. "You know," he began, leaning against the wall with casual confidence, "I've been training fighters for over a decade. I can spot potential, and I can also spot when someone's wasting their time." He nodded toward the mat where she'd been training. "Your transitions are sloppy. No power." Lisa had won her second national championship specifically because of her explosive transitions, but she simply nodded. "I'll work on that. I've got a slot open for private training tomorrow. Usually charge $90 an hour, but I could do 75 for you. We could fix those fundamentals." "I appreciate the offer," Lisa said, slinging her bag over her shoulder, "but I'm good with my current program." His expression hardened almost imperceptibly. "Just trying to help. Most women who come in here aren't serious about real training. Thought you might be different." The comment was calculated to provoke, to challenge her to prove her seriousness. Lisa had heard variations of this throughout her career, the subtle questioning of her commitment, the implied suggestion that she needed to demonstrate her worthiness for training. "Have a good day, Coach," she said simply, and walked away. Later that afternoon, while getting a smoothie at the juice bar attached to the gym, Lisa overheard Kevin's voice from the other side of a partition. "Yeah, got a new member who thinks she's too good for coaching," he was saying to someone. "Tiny thing probably does those dance fitness classes and thinks that's real training." He laughed. "Tried to help her out, show her some proper technique, but apparently she's already an expert." The other person said something Lisa couldn't hear. "Exactly," Kevin continued. "You can always tell the ones who'll quit in a month. Act like they're following some special program, but can't handle basic form correction." Lisa paid for her smoothie and left, unbothered by his assessment. She'd faced far worse throughout her competitive career: open skepticism from officials, dismissal from male competitors, outright hostility from opponents' coaches. A gym instructor's bruised ego barely registered. What Kevin didn't know, what he couldn't have guessed from looking at her, was that Lisa wasn't just any fitness enthusiast. She was a 3-time national Jiu-Jitsu champion, Pan American Games medalist, and currently preparing for her return to international competition after recovery. Her specific training program had been designed by Olympic-level coaches, and her sloppy transitions had defeated some of the top competitors in the world. But Lisa had no interest in announcing her credentials. She hadn't come to PowerFit looking for recognition or respect. She'd come for the convenience of its location and its early hours. The quiet anonymity was actually a welcome change from the pressure of being known. For the next 2 weeks, Lisa adjusted her schedule, arriving even earlier to avoid Kevin's newly established early presence. The tactic worked. He eventually returned to his normal schedule, apparently having lost interest in helping her after being rebuffed multiple times. The other gym members began to recognize her as a regular, offering friendly nods without interrupting her focused routine. Tom at the front desk sometimes chatted with her briefly, mentioning upcoming events or asking how she was settling into the neighborhood. It was exactly the kind of peaceful training environment Lisa had hoped to find right up until the morning when everything changed. She arrived at her usual time to find the gym unusually busy. A sign near the entrance announced an upcoming in-house competition, and several serious-looking members were already warming up with purpose. Lisa found a small corner of the mat area that wasn't being used and began her routine, hoping to finish before the space became too crowded. She was midway through her sequence when a booming voice cut through the ambient gym noise. "Everyone gather round for a quick announcement." Coach Kevin stood in the center of the main floor, surrounded by what appeared to be his core training group. "As you know, we've got the in-house tournament coming up this weekend. Today we're going to focus on competition readiness." Lisa continued her training, paying little attention to his announcement until she realized he was looking directly at her. "In fact," Kevin continued with a growing smile, "I think this is a perfect opportunity to show why proper coaching matters. even for those who think they do.